Hello? I'm wishing. Should I go across this bridge? It's a good thing I have wings. We finished the fairy house. Many houses actually. And looks like I'm just gonna sit down for some little tiny tea and we'll relax in the prettiness. You want to see how it was made? Keep watching. Ooh, butterflies. All right, we're here. We're gonna finish it. And the biggest thing probably we'll do today is all these wires. It looks crazy. There's a lot of buttons and switches and wires, but if we're gonna break it down, it's not too bad. If you've done any wiring in the past, it's the same thing, just more wires, that's all. Before we get to hooking it all up, we have to make some lights first. So this first one is kind of like a little street lamp. So we're just going to build this up. Now usually I test the wires just simply by from the battery pack to the lamp that we're doing, but this one's got an extra switch, so we can't do it that way. There's a bypass. So what I ended up doing is I have a lot of light boxes, or I should say lights with power boxes that I do for just my own little dioramas, and I just grabbed one with the takes the disc battery. That's all. We just need it as a tester because I want to make sure these lights work before we do all this hard work, right? So I'm just going to test it, make sure the light works. It won't shock you. It's very low voltage. There we go. Perfect. Now we can move on. I always test all my lights. The worst thing is putting it all together and then you find out that 3 light bulbs are burnt out or something, or they're wired backwards, or you want it to work in the end, so test it before. And with that, we got our first light done. We'll just set that aside to dry. I'm going to use I usually use leftover glue from past kits. So what type of glue it is, I don't know. There's usually an alcohol-based glue, which is more sticky, like a gel super glue. And then there's, they usually have kind of a craft glue, white glue. If that's not available, then I will always go to my Eileen's Tacky quick dry glue. Or my new favorite is the Fabri-Tac for the clear glue. They all dry clear, which is the important thing. Always make sure they dry clear. So if you're glooby globber like me, you want it to dry clear so that you'll never know how messy I am. So we're going to make the next light. I'm going to do this a little bit in a different order than the book because I want to do all the lights together, the lights and the wiring. This one's like a little lantern, so you have to make a little handle. I would recommend building the handle outside of putting it on the light first. I used a toothpick here to hold it in place, just so that you have an extra finger. And my glue's almost gone. And then just glue that on. I don't waste glue. If I have leftover from previous kits, I will use that up. Glue's not cheap, man. We're going to use what we're given. Here we go. Another lamp done. I think there's 8 lights in this, but not all of them we decorate. Now we had 2 little floor lamps, and I only had 1 of these rivets. I'm supposed to make 2. I looked everywhere and was like, I don't have another one. Did I use it somewhere where I shouldn't have? Oh well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dig through my giant drawers of beads and try to find a couple. These are cool enough. Something flat. I ended up later on doubling it up just to make it a little thicker to cover up the end of the light bulb. But basically, if you had a rivet, that's what this would be. And then you cover it with the bead there. You kind of have to squish it to get it in there. There you go. Got a couple of little lamps. You'll never know. I was going to build this part in the last one, but I ran out of time. So we're going to build it now. This is kind of a little dock, or yeah, it's a dock over the water, and it goes up to a little tree house. So first we're going to make the 2 platforms. I always punch the holes after I glue it on there because inevitably those holes don't usually line up with the pictures. So this way it'll always line up. And then you just push the little toothpick through. Ta-da! These are the legs. Make sure, because I noticed when I glued these two together that it'll pinch together in the middle. There's a gap, and that's where you're going to put a wire in. So just make sure that's open enough for a wire to get shoved in there. All right. Now this one was tricky, only because of how precarious it is. So you're going to stick these two risers for your staircase. Initially, I stuck these upside down and I had to flip them around. So make sure the super jig-jagged is on the bottom. And you're going to put all the legs in. I did end up gluing almost every piece on this in this kit. Everything was loose, at least for me. Yours might be tighter, but I glued everything. All else fails, put a dab of glue in there. You don't want it to fall apart. All right, you're supposed to put this piece up here, and you and I both know that doing it that way, it is not going to work. So I kind of held it there in place and then did it on its side eventually. I held it there for a while, and then when I felt confident it wouldn't completely fall apart, I flipped it over really fast. And it's a three-legged thing, so it's not going to stand up. And so I ended up leaning it against the box so that it could dry. I waited until it dried completely before I put the stair steps on there. There we go. We're just going to leave that alone. Don't bump the table. I probably could have built this also on the piece directly. That would have worked too. But you would have eventually had to take it out so that you could put the light in. So, either way. Now, I noticed that I missed this piece, so I'm just going to throw this in here. It's just a funky little silver flower, I think. You just put the beads at the end and then do it in the S shape. Okay, what I'm doing here is making these rock pieces, and I'm basically going through the book and just trying to get every little piece that I can see that isn't attached to something right now done. That way all I have to do is just throw it all together. So there's a whole bunch of different rocks that we're just going to eventually cover in moss and flowers and things. But might as well get it over with now. So you just cut them to size. I think there's about 7 of them. And if you get it the wrong size, it's okay because they give you plenty of this foam. You can kind of piece it together. Like I said, it's going to get covered in moss and flowers and things, so it doesn't have to be absolutely beautiful. And then you just stab them all, which is the best part. Here we go. We got those done and out of the way. The more we do now, the less we have to do later, right? And now we just do a whole bunch. I'm going to do all the wallpaper. Like I said, I'm doing it a little out of order. They want you to wallpaper it, then do the next step, put the light on, da da da. I'm doing all the same thing all at once. So I'm going to do all the wallpapering. I'm just going to get it all out of the way. I got my scissors out. I got my glue out. I might as well get it all done at once. There's a little house at the top that pretty much all the sides need a window. So That's the only difference in the wallpaper and on these. All right, if you watched the last video, you would know that you had this piece of black cardboard, but they don't really say how to use it. Not at all. I will show you. That's the picture right there of what you get. You're like, what? So, what I'm thinking they're trying to tell us is they want you to back all these roof pieces with the black cardboard. I did go back and cover some of the ones that we did before. That wasn't too terrible taking off. If it was, I think there was one that it just, if I took it off, it would just rip it to shreds, so I just left it. But I did fix the ones that I could. And this one's got a cute little awning doorway, so we're going to put that in. And I didn't punch out those, you notice I didn't punch those holes out completely. That's because we're going to stick something in it like this. And it just, with that paper there, it kind of tightens it up a little bit. So it's a nice tight fit. And we're going to put the roof on. And then there's a little decorative piece in the on the peak of the roof there. A few more little pieces, so we got some stairs here. So we're just going to stack the wood and then we're going to cover it in the paper. And I would recommend pre-scoring it to make nice crisp lines there. All right, this is another one. The instructions weren't 100% clear. I did not know that this was a chimney. The way it looks in the pictures does not look like a chimney at all, at least to me. So, how I built it, I did the bottom or this part fine. We're just going to cover that up. And then you got this little square, and you're going to cover that up. Now, if you look at the far right picture, it just says stack it up on top. And that's the end picture. I thought, and the way it looks like, the very top should have some black cardboard on top, but I wanted to see where it goes later on. Yeah, I glued this little guy upside down. It was an easy fix. I flipped it later, you'll see. But yeah, it was at least for me, it confused me. Like, what is this? I could have flipped ahead. I could have. But did I? No. And we got one more piece that we need to paper. So we might as well do that. It's like a little rock wall for our garden. Okay, here we go. So, this is nice and dry. It's not going to fall apart on us. That's important. So, we're just going to put this little street lamp in the hole in the corner there and glue it down. I always put a little dab of glue underneath where the light is, just so it stands upright. It still tilts after a while. There's no avoiding it sometimes. And then what you're going to do is you're going to tuck this little wire right into that seam there. This is why you want to wait until this piece is 100% dry. Otherwise, you're going to get angry. And that's why I was doing all those other things before I touched this. It's kind of like cooking, you know, it's all time management. What takes longer than the other? What needs to bake more before you stir this in? That kind of thing. And it still, see, it fell off. So I just ended up taking that off. I'll glue it on when we put it in the piece. And there's a second light tucked up in here. So we're just going to put it underneath the dock here. It's going to get covered up with moss and stuff, so no worries. But make it as neat and tidy as you can. Less to cover. And there we go. We're just going to set that aside to dry. Alright, this dried a bit, and we also glued the stairs back on. So now we can cover all those wires, and we're just going to use our fun little stringy yarn stuff. I really like this stuff. I still haven't found an actual roll of it yet. I kind of, every time I go to the craft store, I kind of side-eye the yarn section to see if I can find some. I do have a lot extra from previous kits, though. Just use as much as you want. There we go. And we got another piece done. Now we'll work on this side wall. It's the left side wall, and you can see this is where I redid the roofs. I actually put the dark underneath. It does look better. And we're just going to put those little stair steps we made in the previous video and a rope ladder. Oh, the good old rope ladders. And these did fit very tight. I had to use my little hammer to get this piece in. Now we got some houses. So what I'm going to do is I'm trying to get everything together that's not including any of the gardening. So any of the mossing, the flowers, or anything like that. So we're just doing the structures is what we're doing. I think it's a lot easier to do all the fun, you know, throwing the moss around and things like that last. Then you don't have to worry about knocking it over and things like that when you're building main structures and wiring and things like that. We'll do the main things and then we'll make it pretty. We'll get the little house up here, and this side is done for now. Okay, we got pretty much every little tiny piece done. So this part will go nice and smooth. That's the theory anyway. So there's a light up here. We're going to do all the lights, anything to do with lights. Once you get that glued in place, you're just gonna, it's gonna eventually end up to that square there, because that's where our power is gonna go. So they gave us some tape to use. If you run out, I just use regular Scotch tape sometimes. And just glue it down there. Tape it down so it doesn't flop around on you. And this is a multi-layered little place. And so we got another light that goes in the on this one. And you'll see here where I doubled up those bottom beads just to make it a little more bulky. Glue it on and then tack it down underneath. This one also has a blank light, or a plain light, I guess. It goes right to the edge, kind of hangs over when you put it together. So we're just going to tack that one on. I taped it and I glued it. And then we're going to cover it with a little bit of that stringy yarn there, just to hide it a little bit. Another layer, another hole, another light, and then tape it in the back. See, when you break it down into steps, it's not that bad. All right, now this is the very, very bottom of our little diorama here. So you're going to have this one piece that has two holes in it, and one's going to be for the switch, and one is going to be for this little button that it's for the music box. So I'm going to use my sticky glue here and glue the buttons in. Try not to get glue on the switch itself. You don't want to glue it in place so you can't turn it on and off. So the switch goes over here. And the button goes over here. And we're going to put it in the base here. I would suggest for the switches and things, try to find your strongest glue for that. Because that's going to, you got to think, that's going to be touched probably the most in your whole thing. So make sure it's something strong. For the wood pieces, I would just use your Eileen's Tacky Glue. Mine was very, very loose, so I glued every piece. Probably the most annoying thing about this one is there are a lot of parts and pieces for the lights, and they get in your way all the time. So the wire management is a little bit tricky. It's not hard, it's just they're in your way all the time. So you're constantly moving them side to side. We're going to put this up through here and then put the little river on the bottom. We got one layer done. On to the next. And we're just going to build walls. This this is the area where your battery and your music box is going to kind of hang out there. It'll be something like that. I'm also trying to keep it so that these wires don't get tangled. Every time I go into the produce section of the grocery store, I grab a few extra twisty ties. They come in handy for something just like this. Think of it like a hair tie. And you get two pieces of this little brick wall paper. It does go just a certain way. So one side is going to be kind of longer because you have more. It'll only fit one way. That's what I'll say. I'm trying to figure that out. There we go. There we go. It doesn't look as daunting now. So let's move on up. And every time you add a wire, just string it all the way to the bottom if you can. That's where it's going to end up anyway. And we're going to build up the walls on this level. And this one also gets the wallpaper effect. This one's kind of obvious because it's got little notches. All right, one more level, one more wire, 2 more wires. I'm just glad that we have a lot of space. I've done some that it had about 10 lights and the space is the size of a acorn. You're like, I'm supposed to fit all that in there? Okay. This one you got plenty of space. Now for the top of the hill here, we got a house. So let's go ahead and build that. And now we can put the little stairs and the doorway in here. And this roof, I'm just going to do it the same way. We got this piece of cardboard, and I'm just going to cut it out and cover it. It does make it a little stiffer. And this roof has a little spot there, you can see. That's so you can fit it over where that little stick up is on the side. But before I do that, I noticed I forgot something. There was a light that goes inside this house. Because I was thinking, I have a light left over, and I'm thinking this house needs one. Sure enough, it's supposed to go on the back wall there. That's okay, easy enough. I can pull it out, glue it on, and then put the wire down through the hole. I'm just glad I caught it now instead of after I put the roof on and everything. Then you'd have to cut it off. Wouldn't have been good. It's doable, but not fun. All right, now we can put the roof on. For this little one that goes on the side, I would highly recommend pre-bending it. You still have to hold it there for a while to stick, but it definitely helps go around that curve and not popping up on you. Very cute. We'll put the door there. Now it should fit exactly in spot. And remember this funny little piece? This is where I realized I made this upside down. All right, easy enough. We're just gonna pull it off and flip it around. I actually just pulled it off and then I'm gonna glue it directly on there. Hey, it works. So we got these two lights, and that just goes in the holes. String them all the way through, and that's also where the little legs go. If it's wiggly, definitely glue it. Once you get the walls up, this one kind of stabilizes. There we go. And we had one more light. I knew this one was coming up. I was just going to do it when I get to this point. So it's just a couple pieces of this foam. You really don't need to be perfect on this. So there's going to be a long piece and a little short piece. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to stick the light in here, and then I'm going to build the rock around it. There's no right or wrong way. It's just a little rock formation with some plants and flowers on it. Alright, you're going to notice I did absolutely no moss, gardening, flowers, anything like that. All I did was just the lights. And I'm just testing it so that I can tip it over, because you have to do this. Make sure it's all nice and dry. This is why I didn't want to do anything else but this. And the biggest task here is organizing this wire. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to separate all the red, black, yellow wires from all the gray and white ones. It's like brushing your hair. It's a tangled mess. So we're going to put all those gray and white ones, we're going to separate it by white and by gray. It's basically your positive and your negatives. First, I kind of want to organize these wires a little bit better at the bottom here. Getting my Scotch tape out, and we're just gonna make them all come to one point. They don't really say this, but I like to organize them a little bit. Once I got a little more manageable here, now we're going to separate all the white wires together and put all the dark gray wires together. And I'm just going to use my twisty ties to keep these separated. If you don't have these, just go to the grocery store. Every time you get a bag of tomatoes, grab 2 extras. I have a whole bunch. My husband always puts them in his pockets, and then he's like, "Here, I got a bunch. Thanks." They're very handy. Now we got these nicely separated. Doesn't look as daunting. Now we're going to give it a haircut. Always cut it a little longer, just like you're cutting your bangs, longer than you want them, because they will spring up just like that. You could leave them long if you wanted to. You just have to jam them all the wires up into that hole. So we're just going to cut those short. And we're going to do the same thing to, because the black's going to go to the black, the red's going to go to the red. And it's always way longer than you need it. So I kind of going to cut that short just like that, because those two are going to go together. Just make sure you give yourself enough slack that you can take the batteries out, for instance. That's the only important part. But if you do it outside of the hole, you should have plenty of slack. They do give you shrink tubes. Yay! And you're going to need 4, so we're just going to cut them in half. So we get 4. Just like that. And I would recommend putting them on before you start wiring, because I always forget and like, So I'm going to put it on. And the first side we're going to do is this one. So we're going to match the red to the red and the black to black. But first, you have to strip the wire a little bit. I have wire strippers like this. It's getting a little rusty and dirty. But you just lightly skim on it and then pull. And it pulls the outer plastic. You don't want to cut it all the way through. You just want to expose the wires in the inside, just like that. And then you're going to twist them together. I could have gave myself a little bit more, but you just got to make sure that copper wire is touching the other one. You'll do it to the red one. What we're doing here is we're connecting the music box to the power box. And the music box is the one that has the connecting wires that go to all the other lights. It's kind of like a chain of wires here going on. And then you just put your little shrink tube over the top and then hit it with your heat source. I have a heat gun. Hair dryer would probably work just fine on the hottest settings. I've even, at one time, I used super hot water and then I put it on a spoon and then just touch it. You just need something really hot, but not so hot that it melts everything. I think I've used a hot rag before. Kind of works. It's got to be really, really hot though. Okay, now we got to strip. I find these little wires are way easier to strip with just my nails. This is always the last day of my manicure, is doing all these. It's just easier. I have some strong thumbnails though. And you just kind of pinch it and pull. Pinch it and pull. And it works really well on these skinny wires. Those red and black ones, I had to use the wire cutter, the wire strippers. And then you're going to put all the white ones together and then twist them together. Just like that. And you're going to do the same thing to the gray ones. Before we get too far, let's put our shrink tubes on. It's a tight fit. There's a lot of wires in this one. Then we're going to match the white to the white and the yellow to the gray. Before I seal it up, I'm going to test it because those shrink tubes are difficult to get off. They're not meant to come off. So, and it looks like they all work. Not too shabby. I think we're doing something right. So let's go ahead and hit it with the heat gun and seal it all up. And then you just jam them all in the hole. Literally, that's what you do. It's a little bit easier now that the wires are a little more organized. And just to make my life a little easier, because that thing was going to flop all over the place, I'm just going to put a few strips of tape here so it doesn't fall out on me. Ta-da! And you can see why I didn't put all the knickknacks on there yet, because we have to flip that thing upside down and things would be falling off. We did the main structure, the lights. That's the hardest part. Now we can have fun and decorate. In fact, let's start adding our buildings and stairs. This top building has a little hedge, and it's just from this sponge, and you cut it to size. Remember all those rocks we made? Here's where they go. Now we got to a good point where I like to do this moss. The way they wanted you to do it was put a piece of rock in, then cover it with moss. Do the next piece of rock, now cover it moss. That kind of thing. Now, I like to do it all at once because this putting moss on is messy. So we're going to just globber glue everywhere that they possibly want moss. And then we're just going to sprinkle our moss all over the place. I find this the funnest and the easiest way to do it. If we're going to make a mess, we're going to do it all at once. And you can cover it as much or as little as you want. I noticed that they're a little bit stingy on how much moss they gave you. So all the stuff that you shake off, save it because you're going to need it just in a couple spots here and there. Looking good. I like mossing things. Worst case, I do have extra flocking moss and stuff that I could probably use. All right, it's flower time. we can't forget our tree. Now, see, can you imagine putting this tree on here and then having to flip it upside down to do the wiring? Yeah, no. This is why we saved all this fun, pretty stuff till the last. And all your plants and flowers, honestly, you could do it however you want. I see the pictures as basically a suggestion. I kind of follow it in some spots, but others, you kind of just willy-nilly'd it. I ended up with a lot of extra parts and pieces on this one. And now we get to put more of our little viney stuff on. This is another thing I definitely saved for last because you wouldn't want this to fall off. So we got the little bridge here. This one's easy enough. Remember this guy? I am so glad they made holes for these, because if we had to glue this just directly to the wood, we would have had to hold it there forever. But I'm glad there was holes for the pegs, so it's relatively easy to put in. And we'll just glue, trim as needed. Tidy it up. And we're going to put our little plant here. Remember the fence that I did not make? So there's 3 holes there. I'm going to think about it for a minute of how I want to do that. And we're going to put our little roundhouse in here. Make sure it doesn't hang over the edge because you got to remember eventually there's going to be 2 walls that go there. More moss. We can do the next layer. All right, this is what I decided to do. So I already pre-cut these little pegs. They fit right into the holes. And so what I decided to do is I'm going to put a dollop of glue on each one, and I'm just going to wrap the string around it. Easy. So much easier than the way they wanted you to do it. Let's keep on decorating. This little funny piece did not want to stand up at all. I almost considered just leaving it off, but eventually it worked out. Got a little more moss here. I'm using every little speck of moss that they gave us. can't forget our little wishing well. And more flowers. Okay, it's wall time. So these little guys can get the moss effect too. So we're going to put some stringy stuff on the top and then some moss on the steps. Let's put it up. I did kind of, because these were loose, I glued it in the middle seam, so it wouldn't fall down. I don't think it would, but just in case. I decided I'm going to globber the glue. I'm doing that on purpose. And I'm going to put the vines there first before I put the wood piece. So we can be just all willy-nilly with the vines. And then the wood will go right over the top of it. Just kind of cover it and seal it up. And then you just cover it with flowers and butterflies. They give you way more bugs, flowers. There's ladybugs and dragonflies and all sorts of things. Just put them anywhere and everywhere. That's what I did. And the final touch. We're going to put the little wallpaper at the bottom. And we're done. So that's it. It's done. I hope you enjoyed this one. I had fun doing this one. This one's got a little bit of everything. It's got some plant making, but not too bad. No roses. We didn't make any paper roses. We got lighting. There's a lot of lights in this one. I think the biggest challenge for this one, as far as lighting's concerned, is the organization. So it's kind of like I said, putting your hair together and organizing it. That's what we do. We call it organizing hair. And yeah, we got some house building. We had to decipher some interesting instructions. So yeah, I think this was an easy, challenging, middle of the road, good kit to do. And it turns out really, really pretty. And it's even better with the lights off and then the little lights turned on. It has a nice glow. Very pretty. So if you enjoy this one, definitely do the thumbs up. And I believe I turned the hype back on. I didn't realize it was off, sorry. But you just, on the comment section, if you swipe over and then it'll say hype, you just click it. I think you can do it once a day or something like that. And then what's another thing? Oh, some people have asked, how they can support the channel. And the easiest way, well, the best way is subscribers, likes, comments, But if you want to do one more step, and I would really appreciate it, is if you hit the join button. The join is, it's a monthly thing, and you can stop anytime. You can do it for 1 month if you wanted to. You can do it for 1,000 months. It's up to you. I am not going to pressure you. But I got it down to $1.99, and it just supports the channel so that we can get more kits and more fun costumes. It helps support the channel, and I appreciate. If you don't, it's okay. It's okay. Did you see the numbers, by the way? Oh my gosh, 10,000. What? It's insanity. I didn't think I was going to hit that until the end of the year, and I'm doing that, middle? It's amazing, and I really appreciate every single one of you. That's insane. I celebrate the little things. I was grateful for 1,000. I was grateful for 5,000 and 10,000. What? So thank you very, very much. And pretty soon we'll have some more. Anything above that, I'm calling that just bonus. Thank you very, very much. If I didn't say that 1,000 times more. So I'll see you in the next one, and we'll see what we'll be up to then. Got some things up my sleeve. But in the meantime, let's enjoy this one.